Hi, welcome to Kotlin Thursdays. I'm your host, Matt. Today, we're going to take a little bit of a journey through how to get started with Kotlin. We're going to go through setting it up on your machine. I'll show you how you can experiment with it and play with it in the web browser in case you don't want to go through the setup on the machine. And we'll take you on a little tour through the REPL, which is a way to run Kotlin programs really quickly. It's kind of a nifty tool. Next, we're going to take a look at variables. We're going to talk about how to create them and how to store values in them. Finally, we're going to take a little bit of a journey through arrays, which is a way to take a lot of different variables and group them together so we can easily organize them. Then we'll talk about some of the issues with arrays. There are a few, so join me for this episode of Kotlin Thursday.
So there's a couple different ways you can actually get started with Kotlin. If you want to just quickly start using Kotlin without having to do any setup for your computer, there's a website called play.kotlinlang.org, and you can see that here. This will basically let you just enter Kotlin code directly in the browser, and then you can run it. So for example, we have this hello world sample here. I can click on the play button here, and it will go ahead and execute that. So in order to install Kotlin on your machine, you're going to first need to install Java. In particular, we're going to stick with Java version 8 for a number of compatibility reasons. Now, the easiest way to install Java, and Kotlin for that matter, is to actually use Homebrew for the Mac. To do that, let's go to brew.sh, and you'll notice there's this link down here. You can copy this, and now fire up your terminal. And once you're at your terminal, you can then paste that in here. And you'll notice it says to go ahead and hit return. Let's do that. It'll prompt you to enter your password. And then it'll proceed to download and install Homebrew. Now, once you're done installing Homebrew, you can go ahead and install Java version 8. To do that, let's type brew cask install Java 8. Now, it will take some time to download Java 8 and install it, so we'll need a little patience with this. Now, once Java 8 has downloaded and started to prepare to install with Homebrew, you're going to need to enter your password here. And now Java 8 is installed. The next process is to install Kotlin. So to install Kotlin, let's run brew install Kotlin. And now we have Kotlin installed. To verify that Kotlin is actually installed correctly, let's go ahead and run this command. And you should see that the Kotlin version prints out. As at this time, we have version 1.2.71. Your exact version might be slightly different. That's okay. So now that you have Kotlin installed, let's take a look at the REPL. That's REPL, and that is read, evaluate, and print and loop. Basically, this lets us run Kotlin code live on our console, just like we were able to do with play.kotlinlang.org. So, to fire up the REPL, let's go ahead and run kotlin c-jvm. And once you receive the welcome to Kotlin message, you're ready to go. So to start with, let's create a variable. So now let's create a variable. In this case, I'm going to create a variable called alien, and I'm going to give the alien a name. I'm going to call him Bob. Now Kotlin has stored this variable in memory. So what we can do is take a look at it. To do that, we just type in the name of the variable alien, and it gives us back Bob. So using the Kotlin REPL is a great way to experiment with a language and try different things out without too much effort. However, most of your programs are going to be stored in a text file. So let's take a look at how to actually write Kotlin code inside a text file and then compile and run that. So if I create a text file called hello.kt, and by the way, you can use any text editor that you want. I happen to be using one called Vim. So inside this text file, we'll need to create what's called a main function. A main function, in short, is what Kotlin knows is the first thing that it should run when it loads your program. To create the main function, we type fun main, and then we pass in args, colon, and we're going to create an array of string. Don't worry too much about what the array of string means. For now, just go ahead and enter that. Next, we want to print something out in the console. To do this, we use println or println, and we pass in some kind of text. So we can say, hello world. Now note that any text that you're typing into Kotlin needs to actually have quotes around it, specifically these double quotes. Just keep that in mind so Kotlin knows that this is some kind of text that it should handle as text. Now let's go ahead and compile this. Over here on the right, I'm going to go ahead and run the Kotlin compiler. To do that, we type Kotlin C, which is the Kotlin compiler. We want to make sure to add these options as well. Include runtime, -d. The -d option tells Kotlin we want our program to be named with this name over here. Then we pass the name of the file that we're actually going to compile, in this case hello.kt. Now if you hit enter, that will have compiled our file. If you look at the directory, you'll notice we have our compiled file here from our text file over here. So let's go ahead and run it. To do that, we're going to need to use Java. So we call java-jar to tell Java that this is a jar file, and we pass in the name of the file that we just compiled. And you'll notice that it prints out hello world. Now earlier we had created a variable in the REPL called alien, and we assigned it Bob. We can do the same thing here in our text file. So for now, let me go ahead and erase this hello world, and let me create that variable called Bob. So we type var alien equals Bob. Now if I save this file and I recompile it over here with that same command we ran earlier, it'll go ahead and compile our program. You could ignore this warning for now. Let's go ahead and rerun our program again with that java-jar option passing in hello.jar. And you'll notice that nothing prints out. The reason for that is we got rid of the print line, and so Kotlin has nothing to say. But let's go ahead and add the print line in again. This time we're going to say, hello, my name is, and instead of saying hello world, we're going to pass in this alien variable called Bob. The way we do this in Kotlin is by putting a $sign out here in front of the variable name and then specifying what the variable name is. That'll tell Kotlin that when we actually print this text out, we want to replace this alien portion with the text Bob. So let's go ahead and recompile that program again, and then let's rerun it. And you'll see that we get, hello, my name is Bob. Now we can create another alien variable if we want. If we come down here and say var alien2 equals John, we also write print line, and then we say, hello, my name is, and we're going to use that $sign again and say alien2. Let's save that file and let's recompile it and run it. And now we get the two greetings, hello, my name is Bob, and John. Now I could go on creating different aliens if I wanted to, using this strategy of alien, 2, 3, 4, etc. But there's another way that we can do this. So instead of saying alien, Bob, alien 2, John, etc., what we can do is get rid of this, and we can create what is called an array. To do that, let's create a var, and we're going to store this as an array. And we'll pass in Bob and John. But now what if I want to get the items out of this? If I want to get the individual aliens out of this array. So I want to print Bob or I want to print John. So to do this, let's use our nifty print line, and we'll say the first alien's name is, and now I'm going to use that $sign again, but I'm also going to use a curly brace, and I'll explain this in a moment. So we'll pass in aliens, and we're going to do this bracket, 0 bracket, end our curly brace, and then of course our string. Now let's recompile this. And we run it again, and we get the first alien's name is Bob. Now let's talk about what's going on here. So before, I didn't have to use these curly braces. That's because Kotlin, if you're using just a regular variable, knows that this is just a variable that it can use. However, we're adding this piece on here too. And this 0 is a way for us to specify which alien we want to get out of the box. Why am I using 0? Well, a long time ago, programmers decided they wanted to start counting from 0 instead of 1. Silly, right? But that's what they did, and so a lot of programming languages today use that. So when we want to talk about the first box, right here, which stores Bob, we have to say 0. When we talk about the second one, we could change this to 1. Let's do another print line, and we'll say the second alien's name is aliens, and we'll put a 1 in there instead of a 0. Now when we rerun our program, we now get the two different aliens in those two different print line statements. To understand what's going on with arrays, let's take a step back and think about how the computer works. Fundamentally, a computer is basically a machine that can store things in memory and then move those things around in memory. Now, the way it moves stuff in memory is using the processor, which we tell how to move when we're writing our code. So imagine we have these two boxes in memory. We've actually got a lot of boxes available to us on a computer, but for now, just think about the first two. We put two aliens in there. We call them Bob and John, and we've just now taken up two spaces in memory. So we can go about storing individual variables in memory, or putting individual aliens into individual boxes, and we can refer to them as we did earlier with alien 1, alien 2, etc. However, when we are dealing with a lot of aliens, sometimes it's useful for us to group them together so that we can talk about them as one big group. And the way we do that is by using array. In Kotlin, array of just means go ahead and create an array with the things that I'm giving you and put them into their individual boxes.
That's not all we have time for. Today, we looked at how to get Kotlin set up on our computer, how to experiment with it on the browser, and also how to use the REPL to go ahead and run experiments and tests on our laptop if we want to. We also looked at how to use the Kotlin compiler to go ahead and compile our code to Java bytecode so that we can run it. And finally, we talked about variables and we talked about arrays, how to store data and how to group data for convenience. We also talked about how arrays have some problems, like they're fixed in size. You can't shrink or grow them, unfortunately. But next episode, we're going to talk about lists and how we can get around that problem that arrays have. Lists will allow us to actually grow or shrink our list as we need to, and that's pretty cool. So until next time, I'm Matt, and thanks for watching Kotlin Thursdays.